Welcome to the Parent Toolbox podcast. And I'm really thrilled today to be able to welcome Rosie Bevan and Lucy Race from Battbroadbent Solicitors. It's really good to have you here. And I'd just like you to maybe introduce yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, Jane. Thank you so much for having us on today. So my name's Rosie. I'm head of the family department here at Battbroadbent Solicitors. And Lucy and I are both in the family department. So we guide families and clients through those legal complexities of life. But we're also both parents. So when it comes to things like co-parenting and the struggles of that, we fully appreciate that side of things as well, don't we, Lucy?
Absolutely, yeah.
Amazing, absolutely brilliant. And I was thinking earlier, it's a really tricky subject, isn't it? We're talking co-parenting today, and we're talking about families going through separations, and it's really heartbreaking when families do separate, and quite often it's the children that are stuck in the middle, sometimes forgotten about, and or parents don't quite know how to sort of go through the process of explaining it all to the children. But I believe you have a great way of dealing and helping with parents, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got lots of tools in our toolbox, so to speak. I mean, right from that very first initial appointment, when we meet clients, we're asking what their family looks like. And from then we can consider what support and guidance we are, I suppose, signposting them towards, whether that's getting professionals like yourself on board, Jane, to help from the outset, or considering what they can do to help themselves and to help those children.
Absolutely. And it's a difficult topic to navigate as parents. You're often in the emotional thick of it, dealing with a breakup of a relationship yourself, and then to bring on the worry that you have as a parent and trying to protect your children, but also trying to speak to them with enough information that they don't feel like they're in the dark. It's very, very tricky to sort of balance, and we can offer advice on that and sort of try to help you through that. So that everyone can get through in the best way possible.
Yeah, it's a really tricky time, isn't it? And children pick up on so much more than we think they do, don't they? And I think it's about that communication, isn't it? It's about being honest with them and upfront, and so the foundations are there put there for them so that they're not feeling scared. I mean, we've talked about the worry there, and I did ask before we started, who's Mr. Hairy on the table, and it is Mr. Worry Monster, because children do worry and create these stories in their heads, which it's just not helpful, is it?
It's not. And often people, there's sort of been a lot of research into children are often very aware of what's going on. They're live to not wanting to upset one parent over the other. So often they internalize that worry. It comes out in different ways. Some children don't want to be a hassle, if you like, to the parents when they're going through something. So they all take on things so differently. So our little worry monster, he can go home with a family that comes to see us, and we would encourage parents and children to write down worries, pop them into Worry Monster's mouth. He's got a lovely little zip, so you can write down your worries and pop them away in there. And then if child is open to it, then you can have a discussion about those worries. It helps to open up a dialogue between you and the children, because something that has come out of various research is that children often feel that parents don't listen to them very well. So this is a really great way of opening up.
Yeah, and hopefully then the parents taking that on board, because there's a massive emotional impact on children here, isn't there? And I think sometimes parents don't quite know how to navigate this. And I know that some people sort of say, oh, maybe your child needs a bit of therapy, and parents sort of pull away from that, isn't there? And I guess that's where I step in, is offering the coaching approach, where it's just that third party, somebody that they can talk to who can help them coach through it. I mean, even as adults today, we have our life development coaches, don't we, or our to help us through various things. And I think sometimes just having that little stepping stone for youngsters is really key, someone that they can talk to and open up to. But yeah, do you have any sort of tips and tools? I know there's some apps out there that parents use to help them co-parent, because when they're in the thick of it and actually arguing over things, it can be really tricky, can't it? They keep playing off each other. As you said, the children play off on each other, the parents as well. But is there something that can help the parents along to sort of get on a bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. So an app that we looking for a lot and often recommend is something Our Family Wizard, and it is brilliant because it's got a really high level of protection for both parties. They can communicate through the app. They can do telephone calls, video calls without having each other's numbers. So if things are really difficult, it's a way of building, I suppose, a virtual safe space for communication. With any written communication, it has a tone meter. So before messages are sent, it will look at the tone of that message and whether it's, perhaps maybe a thing, and make that party perhaps think before they send the message. It doesn't stop them sending it, but again, it's remove that animosity and that difficulty that can come from the emotional side, while giving them that safe space to continue to communicate. It's also got like a calendar and things, hasn't it, Lucy?
It's got a calendar, so you can plan. You can plan who's picking up, who's dropping off, what's happening. You can suggest changes to that. So if there's something special happening that you would like the child to attend, you can suggest a change, and you can do a swap day. So you can suggest that. And it also has expenses, so you don't make any payments through the app, but you can say, I have got this cost coming up and I've paid for it. So you've got a log of everything, really important and really helpful. In general family life, a nice planner knowing where everyone is.
Yeah, exactly. It would be amazing. Maybe everybody should start using it. I don't know, there may be another one out there, but it's true. All these things that get you so heated, aren't they? The finances and the co-parenting, when there might be another family coming in. So one partner might be having moved in with another family who may have other children. So the dynamics are just are massive for the youngsters, aren't they? It's sort of keeping it all just keeping those lines of communication open in a civil way. I'm sure you've come across, I know you can't be telling out stories, but I'm sure you've come across many times when things just aren't so civil, and and the communication has dropped, and that just no one gets anywhere with that then, do they?
No, and I mean, understandably so. It's a really fraught time emotionally for everyone, particularly adults, but it's about trying to, if you can, and it's very, very difficult, trying to distance what you're going through as adults from how the children are dealing with things. And that is really hard. We're not expecting anyone to get it straight away, and it does take a lot of work. I think
parenting is hard enough as it is, isn't it? In a loving family, it's really tricky. But to be then co-parenting and having different values or different outlooks on things, because obviously you're separated. There's maybe no love there anymore. Differences are there, so it's really hard to try and pull together, but it's so important, isn't it, for the well-being of the child, just try and keep on that level playing field as much as possible.
Absolutely. And I think actually one of the things we try and encourage from the outset is, and again, it's not always so simple, is that united front at the outset. So quite often we have initial inquiries from people who haven't told the children. This is very early stages. Perhaps they've just decided the relationship is over and they're looking for that signposting and next steps. But wherever possible, if parties can put everything down for half an hour and have that united in telling their child or children, all the research shows that has such a beneficial impact, not only on the child, but on that future co-parenting relationship. It's setting those guidelines from the outset.
And important things like reminding the children it's nothing to do with them. They haven't done anything to cause it. The parents still love them. That's not going to change. Being clear that the relationship is broken down and that's an adult problem and it's nothing to do with them or the way that they feel about them is really key. And it might seem, second nature to us as parents, but actually they need those reminders because it's massive upheaval in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kids get scared, don't they? And it's like just, you know, trying to keep that on an even keel. And we touched on it a bit earlier, but sort of saying, you know, children playing off parent on parent as well. So I think another really key thing is getting the boundaries in place from the beginning, isn't it? Really making sure that everybody's sort of singing from the same hymn book, regardless of your differences. Let's do this for the well-being of our child, and just, you know, think about the future, because you're maybe going through a divorce, but you're going to be in each other's lives for years to come, aren't you? There's going to be the graduations, there's going to be the weddings, the christenings, all these things are going to be coming ahead of you. So it's actually sort of zooming out, isn't it, and seeing the bigger picture rather than the nitty-gritty of what's really annoying you at the moment.
Absolutely. And I think as family solicitors, we are part of our clients' lives for such a short chapter, and rightly so. You know, we come in, we help them solve the problems, and then, you know, send them off to hopefully live their life in the best way possible moving forwards. But we are always forward thinking in what we're doing. You know, we have to consider that, okay, maybe we're planning the arrangements for the children now, but actually, how is that going to change over the years in the future? What can we be doing now? What support can we be giving and signposting to ensure that as those changes, stumbling blocks come along in the future, hopefully those parents can be working together, again, bringing it right back to those children being at the centre of it.
Absolutely. And I think because we as children grow up into adults, and we have our learned beliefs, don't we? And we sometimes mirror what's gone on before us. And when I'm coaching, it's very much about, let's do a little bit of self-awareness. Let's try and sort of find what did work when you were being brought up and what didn't work. And what obviously we don't want is children carrying forward negative behaviors, or having the negative values or the negative beliefs around how they were parented because of divorce or whatever. So yeah, parents can dig deep and actually think about, you know, the impact that the really deep impact of the legacy they're leaving if this isn't done properly and the children aren't helped and guided through in a way that is best for them.
Absolutely. I was talking to someone this week about the three-chair rule, seeing things from different perspectives. And actually what we find is if parents can get that support really early on, and be able to empathise with the other parent, empathise with the child, see things from their perspectives, actually the longevity of that co-parenting relationship is much better protected, because it can be so hard when you are in that, you know, that loss and grief cycle of losing a relationship breaking down. You know, we talk a lot about emotional first aid and, you know, looking after yourself, putting your oxygen mask on first. And actually that's really important, to be protecting and looking after yourself in order to make sure that you're laying the right paving slabs for your child and their future.
Absolutely. And showing them as well, showing them how you are trying to help cope with it, you know, is healthy. You can them you're upset, don't try and keep it away, you know, all emotions are welcome, and to be able to show them in a healthy way, you know, oh, you know, mummy, daddy's having some issues, I need to go and do some exercise, get outside, you know, something for me, it is key as well as managing them. So it's really hard, you've got to look after yourself and give them the tools to do that too.
Yeah. And it's that role modeling, isn't it, of how you would want to see you know, it's about envisaging, would you want your child to be like you? You know, how do you want to see your child in 10, 15, 20, 30 years time? So, you know, the impact of what you're doing today will, you know, carry forward. So it really is about role modeling, zooming out, just seeing the bigger picture, and really trying to understand, as you say, from the child's point of view. I think sometimes as parents, we want to be understood about things, don't we? You know, and it's like, let's flip that a bit and let's try and understand from the child's point of view. And not brush their feelings or their emotions under the carpet, because at a time like this where everything's so heightened, it might seem that, you know, our problems as the parents are so much bigger. but in their tiny world, they've only lived a percentage of the time that we've lived, and so their experiences will probably be more heightened than ours, really.
Hugely. And I mean, you know, they're not trying to give you a hard time when they're having these emotional outbursts. It's not about you, it's about them, and they deal with things. So, I mean, as adults, we have emotional outbursts, don't we? But children are going to do that, and it's going to be more. You know, I mean, Jane, you know all about this.
I mean, their little brains are little tiny brains, and not in a, you know, the brain doesn't fully form till you're 25, 26. So even if you're going through a divorce and you've got a 16, 17-year-old, they're not thinking, you know, logically about things, and they are really in that state of fight or flight. The way they react over everything, be it, you know, the wrong spread of butter in the morning, you know, how they respond is very much in that fight or flight. So it is about understanding and taking on from their perspective. But, you know, and it's about keeping that respectful communication going, isn't it? Especially with the older ones. With the younger ones, it's just keeping that communication going and allowing them to voice how they're feeling, to cry, to do what they have to do. You know, the brain is, you know, and their emotions are natural, and that's what they need to do. As you said before, every emotion is welcome and needs to be expressed. Yeah.
I think one thing that
Carry on.
Is that active listening, because quite often we're listening to what's going on the surface with, you know, with children, you know, they say what's going on and not really taking that deeper view on it. I mean, I read a book during lockdown called Being Rock by Mandy Crease, which is an excellent short book just about that art of active listening. And it was one of those books that really made me stop and think about what I do in practice and what I do in day-to-day life about that active listening. And I think it's a really useful tool for parents as a reminder, sometimes sitting back and rather than acting on the first thing the child's saying, sitting back and just letting them express. We often garner a lot more information than that. Perhaps we can do off the surface.
And trying to jump in and fix. You often do that, don't you? Particularly with your children, you jump in and you try and fix their feelings. You can't, especially if this is, you have to be there, just allow the feelings.
It's tough. As parents, we just want to fix everything, don't we? We want to make everything right for them. But that's so true about the active listening. And actually, you can read between the lines sometimes with what's being said or not said. So it really is. And it's quite an art, as you say, to actively listen. I think people tend to talk too much today, don't they? And there's not enough listening goes on. But that's a really, really good point. Yeah. So Lucy, have you got some books there that you would recommend to?
So this is Living with Mum and Living with Dad. This is a really great sort of preschool book. So it's all about mum and dad not living together, and there's flats to lift. So throughout you see what happens in mum's house, what happens in dad's house. It's a really great interactive book to help there, because often with the little ones it's the change in routine that's the big thing for them. So that's really great. And then this one is lovely. This is Mum and Dad Blue, the slightly older children. So this one is all about a little boy who battles with wanting to stick mum and dad back together. And he goes through various adventures in the book trying to find this glue to stick them back together. And in the end, he realizes that actually that's not going to happen. And he makes his peace with it. That's okay. And then finally, we've got the Split Survival Kit, which is great for sort of teenagers. It talks about understanding their feelings, voicing their feelings, naming them, and how to deal with them. So it's a survival kit. It's really, really great. It's got some great tips in there, and it's also got stuff about navigating new families. So yeah, different looking families. And then just our little worry monster guide that goes home with our worry monster, just to show that everyone has worries, and they're all okay.
Fantastic. Yeah, it is a battlefield, isn't it? And when you're in it, it feels like it won't ever come to an end, but it is just about seeing the bigger picture, isn't it, and trying to zoom out and plan for the future, and keeping the kids at the forefront of it all, and it's about their well-being, isn't there? What's one piece of advice that you would give parents in navigating that co-parenting, so that we go from co-parent to pro-parent, as we said?
Take a deep breath, because I think so often we act so quickly in this world, whether that is taking in information from someone else, taking action, trying to fix whatever problem this has got. Take that moment, feel your feelings, and then take that action, because it can be so easy to take steps very quickly that you later regret, and actually that pause can have a really positive impact, I think.
And I would say, try and think of how in 10, 20 years time, your children are going to look back at what they're going through now. And if they can take away from it, actually, my mum and dad really handled that great, and I have a really healthy relationship with both my parents now as a result, then I think,
yeah. And I just popped into my mind, it's all about love, isn't it? And at the end of the day, our children are love, and that's what we want, for them to feel loved and secure and safe. But it's been brilliant talking to you. You know, brilliant pair of solicitors that deal with something so, you know, upsetting. I think you're fantastic, quite heartwarming to see, and just for parents to know there is support out there. So yeah, just reach out if that's needed. But thank you, ladies. Really, really lovely to talk to you.
And you,
thank you very much.
Take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye. Bye.